On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very exclusive treat. He's one of the world's leading spiritual teachers, best-selling author of a plethora of classics, and he helps people attract miracles in their lives, just to name a few. He was featured in the global phenomenon, The Secret, and he illustrates how to manifest abundance into your life by facilitating the law of attraction. No big deal. He's a dynamic speaker, musician, and his success mindset is on a whole other frequency. He's transforming millions of lives with his work, and his words will penetrate your soul. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific human being. Please welcome the enlightened, emotionally intelligent, brilliant, and handsome, the iconic Dr. Joe Vitale. How you doing, Doc?
I'm glad you're recording that intro because I'm going to listen to it every day. It's going to be my new affirmation. It's going to be my pep talk. Listen to it, and then I'll be floating. I'll be ready to go through the day and tackle anything. So I'm doing great. I'm here with you.
So I did good by you with the intro.
You did great. You're a copywriter as well.
Like I always like to say, everyone gets so excited. It's your story. You wrote it. I just said it.
Well, you said it well. You said it well. Thank you. I'm flattered. I'm flattered to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. And we were talking for a while before we hit record, and we probably could have went for an hour, but we want to save the juicy stuff for the show. For the audience listening, we're about 4 million now. In case you're not familiar with Dr. Joe, and most people are because a lot of my audience loves The Secret and stuff like that, so they're in for a treat. But in case you're not, my suggestion, do a deep dive. Read any of his books. You got a lot to choose from. Watch all of his content. There's so much out there. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
We're going to get a little weird. I like it. I like it. Come on, bring it on. Surprise me. Test me. Let's see what's going on here. What's weird to you? I live near a city that says keep it weird. That's the logo for Austin, Texas. Keep it weird. So you're going to have to work hard to be weird.
I'll be as weird as I can with the next couple of questions. Number one, what is your superpower?
I don't have a superpower. People talk about having superpowers. I just have the latent powers that everybody else has. And what I do is when I find them, I go and activate them. That's what enabled me to write books. My first book was 1984. I've written 85 books. That's probably to some people a superpower, but what the hell? I just learned how to write books and I started writing them. So I don't have a bragging, here's my superpower kind of thing. I don't resonate with that. Give me another weird question.
You know what? Maybe your superpower is that you don't think you have a superpower.
Maybe it's the superpower of humbleness, or maybe it's the superpower of ignorance. Maybe I just don't know it.
But also the fact that you know what you're good at and you double down on that.
I think that's what we're supposed to do. Find out what you're good at and pursue it. Go and enlarge it. Go and passionately do what you can within it. That's really the secret to success right there. Why would I do something I'm not good at and something I don't like?
Yeah, 100%. This is great right out the gate. And did you always have that mentality, or you kind of had to find yourself along the way? I know your story is very well documented in regards to living on the floor in the Dallas library and so forth. But did it happen after that for you, or did you always kind of feel called?
Oh, it happened after that. I wanted to be a writer ever since I was 16, 17 years old. And the rest of it was just fumbling around, trying to find a way to make it work. Fumbling in the dark, being blind, being unawakened, being ignorant, just trying to pursue a dream and doing it in the most clumsy way possible, hoping it would work out in some way. And in many ways, being homeless and living in the Dallas Public Library was a blessing because I love books and they were all free. They had bathroom, they had air conditioning, they had water, and they had books. Make yourself at home, Joe. Just go and work on yourself. And I think that was the beginning of more of the soul searching and awakening to discover a calling, if you will, and then begin to pursue it. It wasn't always there. I was born like everybody else, deaf and dumb. You don't know what's going on. You're just kind of brought into the world as a victim, and you don't know what the score or the parameters or the rule book is.
Yeah, I love this. And I was doing my homework on you, of course, which was a treat because I'm familiar anyway. But I saw you say something along, and don't quote me on this, but I actually think you were quoting someone else. But it really stuck out to me. It was something along the lines of like, people are trying to create abundance, but they're actually creating limitations because we're supposed to be abundant.
That's from Arnold Patton. Arnold Patton said, we don't create abundance, we create limitations. And I thought that was a real slap across the face. It was a wake-up call. It was a Zen koan, you know, it was taking the Zen master's stick to your skull, because most of us are looking around trying to say, how are we going to create abundance? And what do I do? And what do I believe? And what do I affirm? And how do I visualize it? And Arnold Patton said, it's already there. You created the limitations to seeing abundance. And with that shift of perception, now you go, oh, what are my limitations? They're in me. It's not about what I do on the outside. It's about what I do on the inside. When I remove the limitations, I will discover abundance because it was there all along.
Yeah, you nailed it. And that's so, and that's a paradigm shift, right? For everybody listening,
It is.
it'll blow your mind. It'll change the way you look at the
Right.
world.
Right.
And you mentioned like earlier, like your calling and so forth. And I know you talked about this before, but there's a lot of people out there, right? I was fortunate enough to reinvent myself the last couple of years. I know a lot of people feel stuck or they feel like they're out there for more. Where
Mm.
can someone begin to create the life that they want?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I get these questions all the time, and I almost have to be one of those ventriloquist dummies, and you just pull the string in my neck, and here comes the answer that I've given 400 times already. And the irony is, it's not even my answer. I'm quoting Teddy Roosevelt every time I answer this question. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Do what you can with what you have right where you are." And that's what I tell people: do what you can with what you have right where you are. Even during the times of the heyday of the pandemic, and we were all told to stay inside and don't go outside and don't touch people and wear a mask and all of these scary things. Even there, when we were inside our little rooms and we're huddled around Facebook and our little computers, there was an opportunity for us to do something with what we had in that moment. And we can still do that. Now, the good news is it's enlarging a little bit. We're breathing a little bit easier. There's travel that's happening for a lot of people. And we can go ahead and pursue all those inclinations, all those ideas, all those passions. I think a fundamental mistake that people make is they wait for a big plan, or they wait for a big opening, or they wait for a big opportunity. They wait for something that clearly says, jump here, go this way. And what they instead need to do is listen to the little whispers in their soul that is speaking to them right now. Right now, every one of us, if we just get quiet, put the cell phone down for a little bit, quit talking to everybody, get off social media, and go inside a little bit and just kind of listen. There's that guidance system within us. And once we hear, go on the speaking in tour, or buy this book, or open this business, whatever it is, then we follow Teddy Roosevelt. Good old Teddy said, do what you can with what you have, right where you are. And you can make, by God, miracles happen by taking that kind of action.
That's it. And sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of courage and then take action. But you mentioned that whisper. And just to be
Yeah.
clear, it's always, no one's going to shout it at you. It's going to
Right.
be a whisper. You have to be available for it and then turn the volume up on that.
Yeah, you got to get quiet to listen to it. Most of us are wanting some sort of godlike voice or a burning bush or any of the things that we heard from other people or we read in the books. And you know, I can understand that. I would like to have that from time to time too. But I learned that a far more reliable guidance system is the quiet one within me. And it's important to know the distinction, because some people might be sitting there and they hear the voices in their head. That's their own self-talk. And their self-talk will say, do this, don't do this, follow Joe, don't follow Joe. That's all egoic. That's all programming. And what I'm urging people to do is listen to that little voice that's actually lower in your body. It's more, in martial arts, they would say it's in your abdomen area or even in your heart area, but anywhere that's more body felt is probably going to be more accurate in terms of the voice of the divine, the voice of God, if you will, whatever somebody wants to call it. But that intuitive voice is not the one barking at you between your ears. That's the egoic voice that was developed over time, and it can help you survive, but it can also distract you from the thrive and the passion and the purpose that is actually the one for you to pursue. You have to go deeper. Just you don't have to tell the mind to shut up, but at least not listen to it. Get quiet and kind of follow your breathing deep inside your chest and see what words, what image, what whisper, what feelings come in that area. That's going to be more accurate in terms of what's right for each person.
Hi, that's where we drop the mic, but we'll just get warmed up. And this is beautiful. And you say egoic. I imagine that's a spin off ego, right?
Yes. Yes, I think it's a word. I don't think I just made up a word, but yeah, it's ego. And a lot of people say the ego is bad, kill the ego. That's nonsense. You can't kill the ego, for one thing. The ego is part of the gift that has been given to you when you were given life. And that ego is designed to help you survive. It's part of the system that's supposed to look around and say, are there any wolves here? Are there any bears going to attack me? Is there some sort of danger, something I should be aware of? That's the ego's job, is to help you stay alert and stay alive. It's all about survival, and God bless it. Everybody here, we're surviving. Egos are doing a great job, but we don't want the ego to lead our lives. We want spirit to lead our lives. And when you go deeper within yourself and start to tune in the radio station, if you will, or whatever frequency analogy you want to use, you start to tune into something that's coming from a higher source. And call that higher source whatever makes you feel good. But that higher source, it can guide you into something that is, you talk about weird, it can guide you into the by God impossible world. It can guide you into what you thought was never possible in your life. You know, even when I look at my own life, I just wanted to be an author. I just wanted to write books that made a difference in people's lives. I never knew I'd be part of the internet when it came along. I never knew I'd be part of a movie that would change the world, The Secret. I never knew that I would have 80 some books written. I didn't know that I'd be a musician and come up with 15 albums. I didn't know that I would be in 20 some other movies. And now I have my own movie coming out. I got my own online TV show. I was just offered a national TV show on a major network. I mean, I didn't know any of this. These are the perks that come when you tune into your inner guidance and you follow it. Mine began with a little scratch at the surface that said, hey, write books. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do that, but let me pursue it. And in the pursuit of it, all these other things come along. They're like side benefits of following your dream. But on a certain level, it's pretty freaking weird because you can't predict it, you can't control it, but you can sure enjoy it if you don't suppress it. If you just act on these ideas and these opportunities that come to you, then before you know it, you know, like me, you're approaching 70 years old, you look around and you go, holy shit, look what I did.
70 years young.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, but you say the word suppressed there, and that really stuck out to me. And it's like,
Yeah.
I love what you just said there, because I think you guys even talk about in the series, like, don't worry so much about the how, right? Like, be available, fill your assignment, tap in, and then like, and I'm noticing that now, like, I lived one way for 35 years, and the last two has been totally different. And I finally stepped into my alignment. People are always like, what are you on? I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, I spent a lot of time being miserable and unhappy. I love this, isn't work to me. I love this stuff. And ironically, when you add value, the money is just a byproduct. Like you just said, you weren't referring to necessarily money per se, but all the cool perks that come along the way, just a byproduct of all the great stuff that you're doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely correct. And for me, I had to work on money issues. Like so many people, I had blocks, most of them unconscious, around money. And
Same.
anybody that's watching or listening to this show, even right now, if they're struggling with money, they have internal blocks around money. They still think money's bad. They still think money's evil. They still think money's tainted. They still think money is going to be somehow dark for you and ruin you. And I had to go through cleaning all of that up to the point where I realized the only reason I want money is to help me continue following my passion, my life calling, which is to write books. As I make money writing books, you know what? I get to write more books. That's the reason to have money. It's not about controlling the universe. It's not about being the biggest, the richest, the next J. Paul Getty, or whatever the example might happen to be. In fact, Arnold Patton, who I mentioned earlier, he has another quote, and that quote about money transformed my relationship to money, and I want to give it to everybody here because I think it'll help them. And his quote was, "The sole purpose of money is to express appreciation." The sole purpose of money is to express appreciation. And I had to stop and think about it when I first heard it. And I thought, well, there's probably an exception to that. And then when I started thinking about it more deeply and unpacked it, I thought, wait a minute, when I pay the phone bill, I'm grateful to have the phone. When I pay the utility bill, I'm grateful to have heat or air conditioning or lights. When I pay whatever service is giving me the internet, I'm grateful that I'm able to do calls like this over Zoom, which is happening over the internet. So when you really reframe what money is, and instead of it being survival or a necessity or an evil or something that is negative in some way, shape, or form, or even thinking it's limited, if you just think of it as its sole purpose is to express appreciation. I'm a car guy. When I go buy a car and I give them money for it, I'm elated. I have a car I appreciate.
That's
So I've had to do that work as well till you get to the other side, and then you can enjoy your life. You don't have to be in struggle. You can use money for appreciation and to extend what you're doing with your passion and your purpose.
I was trying to play devil's advocate while you were speaking, and I was meditating,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, like, what about when you pay taxes? But then it just occurred to me, thank you that I made money that I can
Yeah.
pay some taxes on, because if I didn't make money, I'd have nothing to pay taxes on.
And you also look at where the taxes are going. I mean, I don't know what countries people are living in, and I'm sure the taxes are being used in ways we don't all agree with. But when I take my new nice car out on the road, my tax money help repair that road.
True.
So instead of going over dirt fields or getting stuck in the mud, somebody paved the road and the taxes paid for that. I mean, that is a very simplistic example, but we have to reframe what we're doing. I remember one of the very first wealth seminars I took, which is like 30 or 40 years ago. The person in it was talking about taxes, and he said, you need to praise taxes. The taxes are encouraging you to be wealthy. In order for you to pay your taxes, you need to have more money. The more money you bring in, the more you can take care of your taxes or anything else that you would like to have in your life. Taxes were actually a motivator. They weren't a negative. And I always remembered that from, 40 years ago.
That really stuck with you, and that's so true. And I love this paradigm shift, because I think to some capacity we're all still working through stuff like that until you get to the other side. And you wrote a book that most people know about called Money Loves Speed. Let's stay there.
Right.
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I've written several books about money, and Money Loves Speed, I think, is one of the most recent one. And that reveals 8 principles around money. And one of them is the title, Money Loves Speed. And what I learned is that when we receive an idea, and we all receive ideas, you've gotten them, I've gotten them, everybody watching or listening to your show, they've all gotten ideas. Those ideas come as gifts. You don't buy them. You don't have to pay any interest on them. There's no royalties you're paying to whatever power brought you the ideas. They come as a gift. Most of us dismiss them. Most of us go, oh, cool idea, but not me, not now. I don't have the time. I don't have the education, don't have the money, don't have the connections, don't have the resources, don't have the know-how. And we just wipe out the idea. We just stomp it to death. I've learned that not only is an idea a gift, but the sooner I act on the idea, the sooner I can profit from the idea. But it gets even better than that, because we all know the feeling of getting a great idea. It's almost orgasmic. It's like you're hit by lightning and it's electrifying and you get these chills and it's like, oh, this is good. And it feels good. And you got this big energy burst that's come into you because of this great idea. If you act on that idea, you get to use that energy burst to help you create it. This is one of my secrets to writing 80 some books and recording 15 some albums. When the idea comes to me, as fast as humanly possible, I saddle up and I ride that idea and the energy around the idea until it is done. What do most people do?
Sit on it.
They either sit on it, talk themselves out of it, or they'll write it down and go, I'll get to that later. Well, maybe you will. And when you do get to it later, it'll still look like a good idea, but all the good feelings, all the rush of energy, all the exhilaration will not be there.
Yeah.
Money loves speed is referring to the faster you take action, the faster you are saying thank you for the ideas, which tells the universe or whoever's supplying the ideas that you want more. And I'm an idea machine. I can't turn it off. And the only time I want to turn it off is when I go to sleep at night. It's like, can I have a few hours with not ideas coming in at shuttle speed here? Anyway, that's the money love speed.
Yeah, but this is so cool and so interesting for so many reasons because it's so advantageous, like you're saying, to once the idea comes, like just vomit it out, right? Like if you're writing a book, you just get to it and then you kind of revise after, as opposed to putting it on the back burner. And also something else that you speak about, which I think ties us together, is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you say something along the lines of the how is the number one thing that stops
Yes.
most people. So if you kind of eliminate that of worrying about how, and when the idea comes, you just begin to take messy action. That not only eliminates thinking, over analyzing the how, but it goes back to the bundle of speed.
And you're absolutely correct. And I'm glad that you went back and touched on that, because when you mentioned it earlier, I made a mental footnote that we need to elaborate. I do believe that is the number one thing that people do wrong. They may have seen the movie The Secret. They've read law of attraction books. They're into personal development, self-improvement. They're reading the success literature. They know enough to set a goal, set an intention, set an objective. But most people at that point gum up the works because they go, I don't know how to do this. And the reality is, none of us know how to do this. None of us know how to do this. We can read books about other people who might have done something similar, but that would have been their particular process and their story. If it helps inspire you or give you a clue, wonderful. But I often quote Steve Jobs, who said, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So when I'm sitting here and I have a big goal that I want to do next year or the year after, I don't know all the steps. I don't know how all the dots are going to play out. But 2 years from now, if you interview me again and you'll say, hey, Joe, how did you do such and such? I'll be able to look back and go, well, I did this and that led to this. And then I did this. All the dots will be apparent. So everybody's looking for the map. I don't blame them, because it feels like it would be easier if you had a map, but there isn't a map. All you have, it's kind of like this game where the universe just says, here's the first move. We'll give you the first move. We gave you the idea, and now here's the first move. And this goes back to Teddy Roosevelt. Do what you can with what you have right where you are. You take the first move, and this is the punchline. This is what happens. The next move becomes apparent after you take the first move. Until you take that first move, whatever it happens to be, for whatever the dream or intention or business, whatever, after you take that message, that first step, the next one becomes apparent. You take that step and the next one becomes apparent. That's how you can achieve it. But wanting to know how beforehand, that can stop you.
This is so important, and it's interesting because so many people, like clients, they come to me and they're like, I want to do what you did in the last 2 years to blow up your brand. And I'm like, in the beginning, like I didn't have all this whole roadmap. I was messy action. I was trying new things, and then I was available and I was tuned into the Wi-Fi, and then I got this idea and I realized that doesn't necessarily work. Maybe I should shift to this. And it reminds me in The Secret, when you guys are talking about, like, just worry about the next 200 feet, right? And in the next 200
Right.
feet, you
Yeah.
guys give that analogy, like driving in the dark. But it's so true. So many people, they never begin, right? Or they're paralyzed because they overthink and they don't know what the first. Just try something, right? And clarity follows action, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it does. I think just trying anything actually will give you some feedback. See, people don't take action because, yeah, they're looking for the game plan, but why are they looking for the game plan? They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of making a mistake of some sort.
Right.
And you have to reframe the whole business of mistakes. I've actually said there's no such thing as a mistake. There's no such thing as failure. All of it is feedback. So if you try to do something because you're going in a particular direction and that doesn't particularly work out, you got to stop and look, what was the feedback you got? Maybe you're getting feedback that the gold is a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left and not directly where you were headed. Whatever you're getting is feedback for you to self-correct your course. It is actually gold that you can turn into products or services or whatever might be coming up in that particular case with that particular person. So instead of looking at it as a mistake, you have to look at it as, well, I'm going to do this and let's see what happens. The other thing is, when you take action, you're kind of moving all the pieces on the chessboard of life. Other people will see what you're doing, and you never know who's going to step in and say, let me help you with that, or let me show you a different way to do that, or I have a simpler way to get to where you want to go. So the universe, I use the word universe, but somebody else might say higher power or cosmos, or I don't know. Deepak Chopra says the field of all possibilities. Napoleon Hill called it infinite intelligence. We have all kind of code words for this energy vortex that we're part of. And that energy vortex notices when we start to go in a particular direction, and it wants to help. When we take a couple steps, it comes in and says, hey, let me show you a quicker way. Let me show you where the escalator is. Let me show you where this guy is or this woman is who drives a cab that'll get you there even quicker, metaphorically speaking. So all of this is in the nature of get rid of the idea of failure and mistakes. It's all feedback.
Yeah, this is gripping stuff. And audience, run that back, grab the journal. And you're right, there's so many code words for it, the energy field, the
Right.
infinite, the quantum, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And for the listener right now, that's like, I keep hearing about this, but I don't know how to become available to tap into that. What would you suggest?
That goes back to silence. That goes back to making time to listen, because that's where you tap in. The thing that's keeping us from tapping in is us. This goes back to the Arnold Patton original quote about the abundance is already there, the availability, the wisdom is already there. We're the ones creating limitations. We can even use the quote from the Persian poet Rumi, who said, you don't have to look for love or find love. You have to remove the barriers in you to love. It's there. So it's the same thing with tapping in. My own personal example is every day, especially over the last few years when I wasn't really traveling during the pandemic, I get in the hot tub. The hot tub's outside, it's under the stars. There's no cell phone. I don't take a computer or iPad or anything. I take a cigar at most. And I get in that hot tub and I'm quiet. I am quiet. That is my gratitude time. That is where I say thank you for whatever is going on in my life or just in general, my life. And it's also where I'm quiet. I'm quiet to see what comes in. I've gotten ideas. In fact, my big complaint was I needed to get waterproof notepad because I would get ideas in the hot tub and think, oh, I can't write them down. This is going to dissolve. And by the way, they do make waterproof notepads and waterproof pens.
Very
So
cool.
ultimately, there's no excuse. But in my case, I always make time, hot tub time, to receive. But I think doing that throughout the day, just slowing ourselves down, taking breaks, whether it's a siesta or it's just a 10-minute meditation or 10-second meditation, just something where we quit looking at our phone. We're so addicted to the distractions, and we have so many rationalizations that say, oh, I need to check this because I could have a sale, or I could be hearing from my mother or my girlfriend or my boyfriend or a business partner. Oh, bull. You can take a couple minutes and unplug.
Sure.
And during that unplugging, that's when you can tune in within yourself. And instead of listening to the outer distractions or the egoic self-talk that's going on, see if you can follow your breathing down inside yourself and see what's there to be said to you.
Yeah, and that's how you become available, right? For those
Yes.
creative divine downloads, the intuition, the whisper, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. Yes.
So beautiful and so powerful. I wanted to ask you real quick, and then we'll pivot in regards to The Secret, because friendly with Asroff now, and he was talking about this. When you guys all got together to film this, or you did your part and so forth, is it true that you had no expectation, you had no idea what it was going to turn into?
No clue at all. None. And in fact, I was filmed separately from the majority of people. The majority of the people in the movie The Secret were at there's a membership called the Transformational Leadership Council. I wasn't a member back then. And Rhonda Byrne, the producer of the movie, just flew there. That's where all the thought leaders were. And she filmed virtually everybody. So she had the bulk of what she wanted in terms of the experts recorded at that event, which I think was in Denver. She reached out to 3 or 4 other people, and I was one of them. And she flew me to Chicago, and I almost didn't go. It's like, what in the world is this? This is some movie called The Secret, and this woman is out of Australia, and she's not done movies, she's done TV. It's like, and there's no promise of anything. But she said, I'll fly you first class. I only need you for 2 hours. I'll fly you right back first class. Just come on in and do the song and dance. I had no clue. No clue what she was going to ask. In fact, she had us in a hotel room in Chicago, and there's a makeup person and camera people, and really Rhonda's sitting on the bed, and I'm sitting in a chair, and she's looking at a yellow pad and just firing questions. I don't know what the questions are in advance. I don't know where this is going, and I don't know how she's going to edit it. But I agreed because she made it easy, and because I hadn't been in any movies at that point, I had done a little bit of TV for some books I had written. And so when it was done, though, and she had sent us all the teaser, the trailer, which she had not made public yet. When I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, if the movie's anything is like this, if it's going to be as good as this trailer, this movie could be a hit. But honestly, none of us knew. None of
Yeah.
us got paid, and none of us knew. And, we all did it for flattery and possible publicity. And it was a gamble.
Yeah. Well, you got paid in dividends after it, right? Because of notoriety.
Oh,
And
I've
success.
been milking it ever since.
Yeah, but look, like no coincidences, right? Like you're here
Right?
for a much bigger reason, and maybe up until that point, your reach wasn't as big, and now because of that, I mean, everyone knows you, and you're helping so many more people.
Well, this is the example, though. It's one of the many examples I was saying earlier. When you start moving in the direction of your dreams, like my dream might have been just to be an author, all these other things come to you.
The chessboard.
And yes, in fact, I was invited to be in the movie The Secret because I had written a book called The Attractor Factor. Had I not written The Attractor Factor, none of this would have happened, and I wouldn't even be here because most people wouldn't even have known of me except for maybe the marketing on the internet, because I was doing that, getting a name for myself, and some people who have known my name for a long time remember me as the hypnotic copywriter. I wrote a book called Hypnotic Writing, blah, blah, blah. But when I got into the movie The Secret, well, I just got blown into outer space. They know me on Mars, by the way. There's little booths with my books for sale on the
I
planet
believe it.
Mars, all because of The Secret. But it's part of the joy of living and pursuing your passion. You cannot predict what other juicy things will take place,
Correct.
yet they will.
Yeah. You know what's so cool about The Secret is it's going to keep going, right? For the next
Oh,
generation that wants to tap into this stuff, like where would you start? The Secret, right? So
yeah.
people that
It's
aren't even
never
born yet.
really It's never stopped. The Secret came out, I think it was in 2005 and 2006, and the book might have been 2006 or 2007. It's still traveling around the world. It's still
Sure.
selling like crazy. It's still listed as a bestseller. The movie is on everything from Netflix to Amazon and probably anything you can mention. Other countries are still discovering it. I mean, right before the pandemic, I was in Russia, I was in the Ukraine, and I was in Iran. I never thought I'd be in any of those places.
Yeah.
And then there was a shutdown with the pandemic. But all of those places are hearing about The Secret. It's
Yeah.
carried me and the good word to other parts of the planet.
Yeah, and you know what's so cool? When I really made my reinvention, my pivot, I started reading The Secret again, and I had read it years back, but I wasn't available. Isn't it so interesting, Joe, how you can read or watch something at a different season of your life, the same thing,
Yeah.
and just have a totally different experience?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories is there was a young man who was homeless in Thailand. He was 20 years old. He was broke. He was despondent. He called a friend of his to ask for money. And the friend said, I'm not going to send you any money, but I'll send you a book, which seems, talk about weird. That seems preposterous. I mean, the guy's starving and you're going to send him a book. But he sent him The Secret. And so my friend in Thailand who's homeless gets the book The Secret, and his first response is anger. He's enraged. He wants fed. He doesn't want a book. And then he starts reading the book and he thinks, this is all garbage. This is nonsense. None of this stuff will work. And then he does what I think was so wonderful. He says, I'm going to prove this doesn't work. I'm going to apply it to prove it's all wrong. This stuff does not work. So the homeless guy, armed with The Secret, starts doing little things like visualizing a cup of coffee, and somebody buys him a cup of coffee. He thinks that's a fluke. So he says, well, let me see if I can get lunch. Somebody buys him lunch. Now he's starting to think, let me try something bigger. Long story short, 15 years later, when I finally meet this guy, he's a billionaire. He went from homeless to billionaire. At the age of 35, when I met him, he had the largest real estate company in southern Thailand. He had a gym, he had coffee shops, he had a lawyer's something or other firm. He was deep into entrepreneurial business. He was running most of it from his phone, and he was thinking bigger than most people I had ever met in my entire life. I was so inspired to hear his story. I worked out a deal where I helped write his book. His book's called Homeless to Billionaire. And my whole point is, for all the people who might have read the book one time or saw the movie one time and didn't think much of it, there are a whole lot of people who have transformed their lives in mega unbelievable ways, like this guy with the book Homeless to Billionaire. His name is Andres Pira. Andres Pira. You can find the book on Amazon. I encourage you to read it. But the whole point is, these principles do work. We got to put aside our skeptical mind, our innocent mind, our critical mind, and we actually have to take a leap of faith, much like my homeless guy did.
Yeah, it's so true. Because when I used to be skeptical, I was always a mindset guy, like NLP and stuff, and it was beyond my senses. I just had trouble buying in, but I was being ignorant. And when I finally had some faith, right, and became available, I mean, instantaneously, I was like, why would I ever go back? I'm living in this space now forever.
Well, you know, once you awaken, you can't go back. You can't go back to sleep. Once you have the knowledge, once you've experienced it, it would haunt you.
Yeah.
You can never go back because now you have the skills. Many years ago, some people wanted me to do some sort of TV show, a reality show, and they wanted me to be homeless. And what would I do if I started from scratch as a homeless person? And they were going to film it. And I said, this wouldn't be interesting and it wouldn't be fair, because at this point in my life, I have far more skills and resources and knowledge and wisdom and techniques than I ever did when I was actually homeless. So the point being, once you start acquiring this and you start learning this and you start applying this material, you really can't go back into the walking sleep state of mind. At this point, all it is going forward. But you're not going forward because it's work. You're going forward because it's exhilarating, because it's joy, because it's passion, because it's fun.
You nailed it. It reminds me of the movie The Matrix. Like, once you're unplugged, that's it.
Right. That's really it. Once you're unplugged.
Yeah. So many ways we could take this conversation. Just a couple more nuggets before we land the plane. I wanted to ask you this because I know you talk about this, and I think this is really powerful. How do you know, Joe, if a goal is too small?
How do I know if a goal is too small? There's a couple ways I look at that. One is, I've been saying for a very long time, a goal should scare you a little bit and excite you a lot. So you need to have both sides of those. There needs to be a little fear and there needs to be a little excitement. Now you know you're on the razor's edge. Now you have a goal that's like, oh, this must be juicy because I'm a little afraid of it, and I'm pretty much excited about it. So anything less than that is probably too small. And the other thing, I had saw a movie at one point. It was a documentary about billionaires, and one of the billionaires said, if you go to a party and you tell the people there what your goal is, and they don't think you're crazy, then you haven't thought big enough.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I never forgot it. I never forgot it. It's like, you know, if you're stating a goal and everybody goes, that's nice, or they don't even blink and it's boring to them, they've already checked out, then it's too small. Or if you're stating a goal and you don't have any rush in you, there needs to be a rush of adrenaline. There needs to be that feeling of going on a roller coaster. And it's like, oh, this is a little exciting. And this is also a little scary. Well, now you got a goal that's probably a match for you.
Yeah.
So those are some of the checkpoints I would use.
That's awesome. And I also heard you say this one, something along the lines of, if you thought like God, what would be your goal or intention? How big would
you? I'm impressed you've done your research so well.
Of course.
Way back when I was first coming out and taking some trainer wheels speaking back in Houston, this was an example of receiving inspiration. I was thinking about, what am I going to talk to these people about? And I got the inspiration, well, what if they thought like God? And I've used it from time to time because for most of us, whatever they think religiously, or they think there is a God or there isn't a God, if we just played for a second, I think all of us would agree God is some sort of unlimited being. And so if you thought like God, would you come up with your own excuses? Would you come up with your own limitations? Would you come up with your own reasons and rationale for not doing something? Because you would just say, would God do that? Would God say that's impossible? Would God say I can't do it for this reason? No. So if you thought like God, you would drop more, if not all, of the limitations you might be inclined to use as excuses. So think like God and take action like Teddy Roosevelt.
That's it. Because at the end of the day, we're God in this embodiment, right?
Yeah. Well, we are. We're divine beings in the spiritual, we're divine beings in this physical body. And I really think what we're here to do is to awaken. And what we are awakening to is our almost supernatural power that's available to us. And more people are awakening, but the great majority of the planet is still asleep. So the people who are awakening really need to shine the light, because it doesn't take much light to illuminate the darkness. So the more of us that can get out there and do our calling and spread the word and live by example, and will inspire by example, the more we can actually light up the planet.
Yeah. And also, like, you said something along the lines of this, and I feel the same way. It's like we're a soul or a spirit having a human experience, and this is
Right.
just a vessel. Obviously, yours is more handsome than mine, but it's just a vessel holding spirit, right?
You must be airing this as a podcast and not a video cast. But I appreciate the nice compliments. Thank you.
But isn't that such a cool paradigm shift? Like when you really realize that, it really makes you believe like you're limitless. This body is just almost like a shell.
And it really is. I look at it as our astronaut outfit. We
Oh,
put on a
yeah.
uniform at birth, and this is mine. This is the outfit I got, and I'm looking out through the little peepholes here, which is through my helmet. And you've got your astronaut outfit there. And, we can manipulate our outfits a little bit. You can work out more and change your diet and all this kind of stuff. But from what we're talking about, you're the spiritual source inside this outfit. You are, in some spiritual terms, they just call it the witness. I think I saw Michael Beckwith the other day use the term presence. So it is, another word would be observer. You're the observer, you're the witness, you are the presence inside of this body looking out. And when you start to realize that, then you start to move in the direction of feeling unlimited. And I mean literally unlimited. I have my own online TV show. It's called Zero Limits Living. And what we're doing is exploring whether we actually have any limits at all. And so far, my guests have been saying, well, there might be one limit. What's that? Imagination. Your imagination can limit you. So I really feel when we go into this, as you're pointing out, this essence, the spirit within, we start to move in the direction of what's really impossible. What are our limits? I don't really think there are any.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that perspective will change everything for you.
Yeah.
I wanted to land with this. If something happens, we know it happens for us, not to us, but for someone that's struggling with something else, you had a little affirmation that I thought was so powerful, something along the lines of that or something better, right?
Yeah, I wrote about that in my book, The Attractor Factor. I reveal a 5-step formula for attracting what you want. And I talk about intentions, which I'm still a big believer in intentions. I think intentions rule the earth. Intentions give you control. Intentions give you a target. Intentions move energy, your energy as well as the rest of the world. But a lot of people, when they state an intention, they really are focused on one thing to the exclusion of greater possibilities. And so I have said, tag on this little phrase, this or something better. So if you say, I really want this 2023 Lamborghini Urus SUV, you could add on this or something better, because the universe, the cosmos, God, whatever you want to call it, knows what all the possibilities are that might really excite you. But you are focused egoically on only one thing. And so what I've often told people is, look, you can go for anything you want. You can go for $50,000 extra by tomorrow, or $5,000 raise, or 20 more sales, or I don't know, whatever you want to say. But at the end of every one of those requests / intentions, add the disclaimer and the opening statement, this or something better. This allows your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind, as well as the collective itself, to show you, to bring you something that you didn't even know existed, because you were only working from and stating intentions from your limited experience. So adding the phrase, this or something better, enables you to possibly get something that's truly thrilling. that you didn't even know was out there.
I think this is so cool because it's like we're circling back to kind of coming full circle about like having money issues and so forth. And just something like it reminds me of what you just said. Instead of saying I can't afford that, you say or you question, how can I afford that?
Right,
This or
right.
something better. And it's the same concept right now. You start to think a little bit more expansive.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you give your mind, if you just want to break all of this down to brain science, the brain needs a target. The brain needs an assignment. The brain needs a task. For most of the time, the brain is just working on survival and it's scanning your environment to see if there's any dangers. But what most people don't know is that you can give it other things to do. And so when you say, how can I achieve such and such, or how can I can attract such and such, you've given your mind an open-ended question. And the brain goes, oh, we have an assignment today, folks. Let's all get busy and see what we can do to make this happen. And now the brain, unconscious to you, will scan the environment for anything that could be a lead, an opportunity, a something or other, a piece of the puzzle, and it will make you aware of it because it'll light up your brain and say, hey, this is what we found over here in this corner. This can help you achieve what you just said you wanted. So having an open-ended question instead of saying I can't afford something, which doesn't give the brain anything to do, and all you do is reinforce lack and limitation, it's a negation. It's not even an affirmation. Instead of doing that, you have the open-ended questions where you're kind of curious, like, I wonder where that'll come from. I wonder where extra money will come from. I wonder where the book deal will come from. I wonder where the soulmate will come from. Those give the brain room to move. And then, of course, asking how and what's possible and variations of it.
That's it. Too much fun today. The final nugget is this: there's nobody, in my opinion, better to ask than this. We just signed a big book deal with Wiley. They have a pretty aggressive timeline, so I just started my process. I'm really in the zone now. But who better to ask than you? What's your process when you begin to write your book? And you've written north of 80, so I imagine you have a great answer.
Well, I love Wiley. Wiley published 9 or 10 of my books, so you're in good hands over there. They're going to treat you well, and they're going to come out with a great book you'll be proud of.
Good to
I'll
know.
tell you the advice way back in Houston. One of the ways I made gas money was I taught writing classes because, I had my first book in 1984. Didn't make any money from it, but I heard, oh, if I did some classes and maybe people would come and maybe they'd pay a little bit. And the bit of advice I taught all those people was the advice I also learned myself. And this is the advice I give to you. You can streamline this whole process of writing your book. You can make it more fun. You can make it easy. You can make it more powerful. You can make it more creative if you just do this one thing. When you write your book, only write the book. Don't edit as you write. The big mistake most authors make is they're writing down a line like, oh, this happened in 1943 and the plane came down. And then they go, wait a minute, it wasn't 1943, it was 1963. And they stop themselves and rewrite the sentence. No, when you're writing, write the first draft as if your hair is on fire. Do not stop. You can take breaks because you're writing a book, so you can write one chapter or half a chapter a day, write the next one the next day. But when you're in the writing, creating process, you do not edit. I cannot stress this enough. So you just want to get the first draft done quickly, make it what I call a brain dump, get all of it down, put it all in that Word document, then go on a break, go run your marathon, go for, I don't know, a banana split or something, go take a break. And when you come back, you can bring the editor online in your mind, your editor, your internal editor. And now you can say, okay, let's have fun. Let's go and correct the date I didn't have. Let's go fill in the blanks I didn't have. Let's go rearrange this because it's putty. This is a sculpture. You can move pieces. Nobody knows what you're doing behind the scenes. So you do the first draft as a raw, fiery, here it is draft. Later, you do the editing. And even after that, you can have a professional editor. Wiley has their own editors. They'll be doing editing on it. So you will love the process if you don't try to edit as you write in the process.
I can't tell you how relieved I am to hear that because that's exactly what I'm doing. In the beginning, I was like reviewing everything and I wasn't really getting ahead. And then all of a sudden it got closer to the deadline. I was like, all right, I really got to get into a zone right now. And so I'm waking up every day at 4 a.m. I write for about an hour, hour and a half while it's pitch black at just me and writing. And I haven't reread one thing since. And I'm
good.
I'm in such a groove this week. Like at first at 50,000 words, I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get there? But now it's like we're going to be over that. And I didn't articulate what you just said. I was just doing it, but to hear
Right.
you reinforce it
Yeah.
is great stuff. And I can sure anyone listening that wants to write, definitely do that. Do the brain dump and then attack it after that.
And I'll give you one more tip here. You don't
Please.
seem to know it. You don't seem to need it, but somebody listening or watching might want this. One of the things you can do, and I did this in the early days, is you open up your Word document. This is where you're going to be writing. You're going to do your brain dump. Turn off the screen. Turn off the screen so you cannot see your writing. You cannot see the words that you're typing. That forces you to just look down on the keyboard and just type, just type, just type. You're trusting, you already opened the Word document, you know it's all going to be there. It'll automatically be saved. And after 20 minutes, whenever your writing sprint happens to be, turn the screen back on, save your document, and go for a walk.
That's it. Love that. This is too much fun. The audience is about 4 million now. They're very loyal and engaged. What's the best way for the community, the audience to support you, Joe?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm all over the internet. I post every day on Instagram. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale there, Dr. Joe Vitale. Same thing with Facebook. My TV show is at ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. It's seen on 1,000 platforms around the world, but I'm putting all the episodes there, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. I have all kind of freebies. I have a miracles coaching program, and people have been asking me questions for a long time. I've compiled those into books called the Miracles Manual. And people can go to miraclesmanual.com, download all those books, read them as they please. I've written 80 some books. Just go to Amazon, type in my name, and stand back because a lot of books are coming in. Make sure you have an Amazon gift coupon handy or something that you can go and buy as many Joe Vitale books as you like. I'm probably forgetting other things, but that's
We'll put them all in the show notes. How can I
thank you.
personally support you?
Oh, I think you've already done it by doing this. Telling people about my coaching program is always big. I have a program, it's at miraclescoaching.com, and I started it 20 years ago. It's a system that works, trademarked it right after The Secret. So miraclescoaching.com, freebie 45-minute consultation to anybody that goes there and fills out the form.
Hi, absolutely love it. Joe, hang up for 1 second. I want to connect with you after. I want you
Okay.
to know the definition of perspective, abundance, and vibrations. From taking your life experience to spreading positivity, light, and deep truths. You're a true visionary, role model, and beacon of hope for anybody coming up today with big goals and aspirations. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless nuggets today.
Loved it. This was exhilarating, and it was nowhere near weird enough. You need to come up with weirder questions. Thank you.
Dr. Joe, that was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. What?
Next time we'll get a little weirder.
All right. Where does this go? When does it come out? And what happens? How can I support you and tell the world?
First of all, love this conversation. It'll probably come out, I would say, second week of January-ish.
Okay.
We'll stay connected. It'll be everywhere. All the podcast platforms, Instagram, Facebook. My team will create content. You said you're active on Instagram. Do you run your own, or do you have like a team?
No, I'm doing it. I've got a guy in Ireland that makes a lot of the videos, but I'm kind of having fun posting what I feel like posting.
Let's connect there, and we'll support each other. I have a big audience there as well.
Okay. Okay.
And then also, do you ever come out to New York?
Well, not in a few years, but yes, I do. I've got partners out there, and plus I love the city. I haven't been there since COVID began.
Okay. I've been to Texas a couple times in the last few months just for traveling and speaking and so forth. But if you come here or I come there, let's meet up for a cup of coffee or something.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Can we exchange numbers?
Of course. Do you want them now? Or do you want me to email it to you or what?
Yeah. If you have your phone, I'll give you mine. Shoot me a text.